Spirituality without ethics is a crime. Now, this is a very important topic. My name is Sumed. I'm a flow state coach. I'm here to break down why spirituality without ethics is not ideal, not effective, and it is a criminal action. Because actually, spirituality without any rules is not spirituality. Okay? No rules spirituality is something completely different. It becomes anarchy, it becomes something else. It becomes a different thing by itself. Okay? So in any kind of belief or school of thought, there are doctrines, there are laws, there are principles that people abide by and live by. That's what creates a structure, that's what creates a discipline. Discipline coming from the word disciple, usually disciple of Christ, but in this case, we're using it in a different context. So a lot of young men and women growing up, they escape to spirituality, right? I did this as well. I found it as an outlet where I could just be myself and express myself very fully. Kind of like how a person goes to Burning Man and finally feels like, oh, I could be my weird, wild, freaky self. Whereas going about their natural lives, they don't feel so. What's important to consider is you understand that there's no kind of higher spiritual body or an ethics committee, okay? There's not like 7 dudes in robes judging you on your spirituality, okay? It's something very personal to you, and that's what makes it a little bit more nuanced and complicated, okay? If you say you're spiritual, what does that even mean? A demon is a spirit, okay? Dead people, do you believe in them? Do you believe in reincarnation? Okay? There's different beliefs, right? You have different ideas and different beliefs, and those beliefs were created by experiences, shaped by time and space, shaped by culture. So you got to understand what you're about. Because ultimately, spirituality does come at a level of knowing thyself, not separating the self. I don't want you to get so rule-oriented and dogmatic in terms of spirituality either, because then it becomes just a religion, okay? Regulare, the rules. But what are the values, what are the core values and the core tenets that you believe in your way of thinking, in your own philosophy, your own spiritual process? Let's say, for example, the ethics of love spells, right? Let's say you're a magician and you're doing love spells. You're doing love spells to manipulate and change somebody's mind or beingness in order to bring their energy more closer towards yours. Now, some will say it's dark, deceptive, not doing that, etc., etc. We as Primal Sutra understood the ethics of love spells. So we never really did a love spell that was towards another person. We always understood the concept of as within, so without. So we would do a self-love ritual, which would bring us more love in our lives. Once you focus on your own love, then you will get other love. If you try and just focus on other love, you won't get the internal love. You'll be in a weird codependence type of relationship or some kind of a mismatch. Because the love that you have inside does not reflect the love that you have outside. Now, there are rare occurrences where that could be the case. You meet somebody and they convince you of their love. And see, spirituality is for anybody who wants to become the best version of themselves. This is kind of how I see it. There's a missing piece in a lot of people's lives, and it's usually spirituality. And the reason why ethics is so important also is the spiritual population or the spiritual community are people who are very, very vulnerable. They're people who've gone through traumas, people who've gone through, bullying, people who've gone through a lot of being treated like an outcast or a weirdo, right? And for these people, you need extra care. You need extra support. You need a safe space for them. Now, they can go and make their spiritual community their safe space, but what about the safe space that is their own body, where they feel like they can completely embody and be themselves? You see? So you got to understand that at a very core level, you are a good human being. If you saw someone suffering right in front of you, you would try to help them. And if you didn't, then maybe that's something to work on. That sounds a little bit sociopathic or psychopathic, that you're not going to help somebody who's, struggling and in pain in front of you. When the mirror neurons are going off, right, you're seeing this suffering being, and that's why, children, this is a suffering being right in front of you. Of course, you're going to take care of it. As a mom or a dad or whatever, right? A cousin, a sister, you're going to take care of it. It's crying, right? Though it is very annoying when a child is crying, you do feel this irritation internally as well, because you hear a child's pain. Then you start to understand that, hey, I really need to help them. Why? Because there's this level of empathy, right? There's this level of compassion. And in spirituality, they introduce this concept of empathy and compassion, but understanding it also is a baseline. It's a baseline, okay? You being a compassionate, good person is a baseline. That's just when your spiritual journey starts. Now from there, what you do with the rules and ethics and the regulations or the boundaries that you set for your own spirituality, like, look, I'm gonna go here, but I'm not gonna touch the archangel stuff. Or, hey, I'm open to everything, right? I'm open to believing in aliens, I'm open to whatever, but it's according to my own process and methods, right? I have to know when to stop. I have to know my limit, okay? That's another thing to really consider, because when does it become too much? When does your mind start getting too scattered and there's too many datums and it's complete chaos, right? This is why you need structure. This is why you need ethics. This is why you need logic. This is why you need a code to follow as a man or a woman. You need a code. You need something where you can go, this is it. Can't do this. This is that, right? Now in coaching, they do have the ICF and the core competencies, but why don't we have any core competencies in spirituality? We have the Hermetic principles. We have different texts to follow. But what about your own life? What is your framework for your relationships? What is the framework for your health? What is the framework for you making money? And why have you disconnected that from your spirituality? Why do you feel like the spirituality is another extra element to that? No, spirituality is what makes those things. Everything comes from the spirit. You are a spiritual being first and then a human. It's not that you have a great relationship and then, you're not spiritual. No. A lot of the times a culture wants to decide what spirituality means for you. But spirituality just means non-physical. It's something that is ephemeral, ethereal, metaphysical. You can't touch it. It's not tangible. So that means your ideas around spirituality is either going to make you or break you. Now, I would much rather have your spirituality bring you towards the greatest version of you, rather than get you sidetracked, waste a bunch of your life chasing imaginary rabbits instead of actually getting the results that make your life better and more smooth. So start with the little boundaries for yourself. I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes a day. Okay? Start with the small boundaries and then stack them. Don't overwhelm yourself in this journey in the beginning. Don't try and do 100 different courses, 100 different things and try to rush forward. That'll happen. With time, you'll get more curious, and curiosity will be your driver, where you will start to explore and discover newer things, newer datums. And emotional intelligence also comes down to this too, and mental health, right? If the universe is mental, then mental health is the number one priority. One of the memes that blew up for me that Ryan G helped make. Your mental health is so key and important, okay? If you're feeling bad in spirituality, you're following a weird path, okay? If you have to constantly second guess yourself and check whether the tarot card reading person is pointing you in the right direction, so you look up 18 different tarot cards and they're like, oh, they're all saying the same thing or something like that, and you're going down this weird kooky rabbit hole of this, wait a second. Why aren't you practicing tarot yourself and getting a better understanding? Why are you constantly, keeping it for others and making somebody else the expert in your life of spirituality? Why are you going, oh, that guru knows, I don't know? Now, yes, of course, you've got to be humble in this process, and I understand that. But there's a certain level where you get to decide what your spiritual journey is about, and nobody else can come in here with a thesis statement that can convince you otherwise, okay? I'm more of an omnist. I've never really been more so of an atheist, but I understand people who are. And it's because, hey, life has been pretty shitty to them, at one level too. So you got to understand, is it just about maintenance and management of life? Okay? Because sometimes we have bad role models or toxic people and environments and things like this. That doesn't take away God's power. You know why I believe in God's power? Because there's a earthquake in Jakarta a little while back. I'm just hearing about it now as I'm here safe at home in India, away from that place, right? I was very close to Jakarta. It could have been me, that earthquake. You see what I'm saying? So these little signs of like, oh, and does God have a bigger purpose for natural disasters and all these things? Hey, we don't know that. We don't know that. But all I know is that there's a bigger game at play here that we're not seeing, that we don't understand. And you got to get off of your moral high horse and get more ethical. Ethics does not mean that you're up here and that you're making rules like, up in the hierarchy of some kind of a, godlike structure or a base. It's coming back to integrity, honesty, respect, reflection, consistency, devotion or bhakti. These basic things, man, like it really comes down to the ethical choices that you're making. Even in the law of robotics, you say that the robot cannot harm the human or cannot harm others, right? Or harm itself. How can we have that rule in robotics, but we don't have that rule in spirituality? That your spirituality could hurt others. That you are trying to, curse and hex and throw all these different things in people's directions. Now, it's different to do a little prank spiritually than to do an actual curse or a hex, okay? So if you're trying to sit in your palace and thinking that, I have control over everybody, that's megalomania, right? That's not really you being a god in training. You see, the people who look at Primal Sutra and they think that gods in training means that, we believe that we are gods and we have a god complex. And no, if you really think that, and you think we're trying to, bring people away from, Christianity or whatever your beliefs are, right? That's wrong. That's a wrong datum, right? I know those people that think that gods in training have their own interpretation of what that means. They think that we are gods and that we are, higher up in the pantheon than everybody else and that we are the ones who are... Look, this is not about some kind of superiority complex thing here. We are gods in training. We're gods with amnesia. We forgot who we were, guys. We forgot our own true powers, our G-O-D, our genius. We're geniuses on destiny. We forgot our own creative potential and our own fuel. We forgot our past lives. That's why we can't function in this life. It's about remembering again. It's about remembering the future. Momento futurum. Remember the future. Remember the future. Remember who you're going to be. Guide yourself accordingly. And for the people who think gods in training means those different things or they're in their own minds and they have their own projections on it, you're not my people. You are not my people. Because for the people who resonate with that, when I say God's in training and they go, yup, I get it. Our whole life is training, right? And yes, I'm a divine spark of the light, of the G-O-D. I do have that within me. What if I am a God? Okay. Not from a prideful, egotistical standpoint, but what if I had powers to create? Now this gives me purpose. This gives me power. This gives me potential to see young men shine in their own lights. And of course, young women as a byproduct of the men shining. Because once you have ethics, once you have structure, once you have a code, once you have a proper mechanism of how you're taking this thing, you will make your life better and you'll never be the same again. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Let's go.